You know, the recent passing of Queen Elizabeth got us thinking about the mark of a matriarch. The Queen was an obvious and admired matriarch. She was mature, she was wise, she was a woman in a position of power. However, my next guest says the marks aren't limited to those traits alone. In fact, he believes it's less about station and more about creating space for transformation. That's a beautiful way to say it. He always has a way with words. Host of KSL Radio's Inside Sources, Boyd Matheson, is joining me. It's great to see you.
Great to see you.
Thanks for taking this on. The mark of a matriarch. I mean, it's work I think women do on the daily. It's always nice for us to see our eyes reflected through someone else's lens. You know, a man or some outside perspective. And I think that that daily work sometimes feels like a little. It feels like almost nothing sometimes, but it adds up to a lot.
It always adds up to a lot, way more than we can ever imagine. And so there are no small parts or players, and matriarchs play those roles so big, and they often create those transformational moments in the seemingly insignificant things of day-to-day living. It might be on a ride to soccer practice, it might be helping with homework, it might be at the job, working with a colleague, you know, pulling them aside, helping them with an issue. But it's really an intentional thing, is what I found, is matriarchs are very intentional in the impact they make, and that's what creates the legacies that they leave.
I love that word, and I agree with you. It is intentional work. I also love the word matriarch. I think it's esteeming. I think sometimes the work we do doesn't come with the appropriate label, but something about matriarch feels weighty enough. And you think of the matriarchs who have shaped your life, and you can, I mean, fill your fingers with names and faces.
Yeah, and I have a lot, because if I just go through my immediate mother, wife, 7 sisters, 3 daughters, 2 granddaughters.
You're double-handing it.
Yeah, I'm already double-handing. So they've had a significant impact on my life and my view and what I'm able to do. And what I'm able to contribute.
It's neat just to pause and honor. You say the mark of a matriarch is found in a number of gifts they both possess and share. One of those gifts is the gift of trust.
Yeah, and this is actually one that ties back to the Queen. Everyone looks at her and all the regalness of all of that and all of the things that she did. But I think the most important lesson she taught was about trust. Some people don't know that every single week while she was Queen, she met with the Prime Minister. That's 14 different Prime Ministers over her very long reign.
14.
And those meetings were private, they were trusted, nothing was ever leaked, nothing was ever said to the press, nothing was ever shared, and it created this intimate space where they could have frank conversations, where people could be relaxed enough and not worried that this is going to be in the newspaper tomorrow or be on the media the next day. And it influenced, her mark as a matriarch influenced prime ministers and an entire country in many ways that no one ever knew, because she had that trust and that space where a leader could come and have a real, honest, crucial conversation.
I love that you're illuminating that characteristic, and I didn't know they meted weekly and that often. And you think of, the word trust. It's so rare in this society to have a locked vault of conversation, especially among political leaders, right, or leadership in general.
Exactly.
That's something special.
It's really special, and it's really important. It's something we've lost, even looking here in the United States, looking at the Supreme Court. We've stress-tested our country in all kinds of things, in famines, in war, in economic collapse, pandemics. We've never tested this country with a lack of trust, and it's the matriarchs that create space and that vault, that trusted vault, that's so crucial to our society.
Perhaps in this time we need to preserve it, right?
Absolutely.
Preserve that trust that we teach and offer. Another gift you say matriarchs bring to the table, and this is another underexplored word, is the gift of curiosity.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important words that we have.
I love it.
And matriarchs do it incredibly well. There's actually 2 matriarchs in my world, neither of which were mothers. They were both teachers. One was my 3rd grade teacher, Mary Faulkner, and out of the blue, she presented me with a gift all wrapped up, and it was just a book. And she taught me to love reading, to be curious about something besides basketball.
This is in 3rd grade. Boy, trade the basketball for a book.
Check it out, yeah. And then my high school AP U.S. history teacher, Claudia Wright, again, also not married, not a mother, but she taught me that history was not about dates and wars and politics. She taught me that history was this unending river of ideas and principles to be explored, and it absolutely changed my world. But that's one of those marks of the matriarch, is they create space for curiosity, because that's where we all learn what our gifts are, what our interests and talents are, and what we can actually become.
I think it's significant not just to celebrate that, but even take that on as a challenge. How might I ignite curiosity in my kids or my grandkids or the students I teach, the kids down the street? I mean, that's a word that's kind of fun to think about how you might play that out in the lives of these young people.
Yeah, it is. And just asking those kinds kinds of questions, the curious questions, as you know, you do it every day.
Well,
it's part of why your show is so powerful, is because you help people be curious about things that they may not naturally be curious about. Suddenly they're looking at, oh, I wonder why that's like that, or I wonder what I could learn from that. And that's a real gift.
Well, thank you. Questions are powerful. The gift of invitations to dream.
Yeah, dream and dream big. I had the opportunity to interview the woman who was the first woman foreign minister from Somaliland.
Oh, wow.
Edna Ardan.
Okay.
And she was extraordinary. She was one of the first to go to school. They didn't educate women in those days. She became a midwife and a nurse. She opened a college. There's over 1,500 women learning how to be nurses. And it was all because she just had this vision to dream big. But it wasn't enough for her to be big. It was about making everyone else big. And you know, sometimes you go into a room and you know so-and-so is the smartest person in the room, but everybody leaves feeling a little bit dumber or a little less than.
Yes.
And then you have those people who come into the room, everybody knows they're the smartest person in the room, and everybody leaves feeling elevated.
Yeah, that gift's been shared.
That's Edna to a T, and that's a real mark of a matriarch, to just raise that vision and help people see just a little bit bigger.
What, from your observation, is the key to doing that? That sounds nice in conversation and by description, but as women, if we want to lean into that role of helping others, not just pursuing our own goals and ambitions, but helping others really drive for it, what do you think is the key from your observation?
Mentoring and coaching, and women have to take on that role for other women. It's often lacking in the workplace. Someone who does that incredibly well, Astrid Tuminez, president of Utah Valley University. She not only exhibits what it takes. I mean, she came out of poverty in the Philippines, and two other women, two nuns, took her and her sister out of poverty, taught them how to read, and sent her on a global life that has just been extraordinary. But she's always about getting back in. The thing I love about Utah Valley University and the kind of culture that she's created there is that it's gritty. It's just this gritty, go at it, make it happen. And so she doesn't just talk about that from the stage and from the platforms. She gets into it with the students one-on-one, and that makes all the difference.
We need more of that. Well, our honest cards on the table, it wasn't just the passing of Queen Elizabeth. We were so touched by your mother's obituary. We're so sorry to hear of her passing. But in that obituary, which I'm feeling like you had a hand in, you had a pen toward, you talked about the gift of magic and the magic she brought to the everyday. And you wrote, Carol, your mom, Carol was the master of moments, magical and meaningful. Each moment required a preceding moment where Carol would intentionally and purposefully choose to put the needs of others ahead of her own. She spent a lifetime creating magical and meaningful moments for others while demonstrating that the path to happiness is on the less traveled road of selfless service. Can you tell us a little bit more, Boyd, about your mom and her gift of magic?
Well, anyone who can survive 11 children has a little bit of magic in the bag, to be sure. But she always had time. No matter what it was, she always just created these little moments. And whether it was she had a candy closet that was always full of magic things to go in there. Yes, exactly. Yes. Or just sitting on the couch. I remember as a young boy, I'd come home and with 11 kids, we had mountains of laundry.
Sure.
Never ending. But the moment I walked in the door, everything stopped. And it became that one-on-one time, that focus time. And it was, we had more magical moments just sitting around the counter, just having a chat or a drive to the store. She also loved glitter and had a stamp room. So everything was sprinkled with just a little bit of magic, just a little bit of pixie dust there. And she really left that mark. And not only did we have 11 children, but we always had someone else living with us. Someone, a friend or a friend of a friend of a friend.
It was an open door.
It was an open door. There was always room for one more. How much? One more. We can do it. She had this amazing ability. People loved to come to the house. The door was never locked. People just came in and felt welcomed. And a lot of people thought, wow, this is a great place to get some good food. It's always a party. Something's always going on. But it was really kind of sacred ground because she would find the moments in the midst of all of that chaos to have a meaningful conversation, a purposeful conversation. But it always required her to be very intentional and set her own interest aside first so that she could create that magic for somebody else.
It's ignoring the laundry piles and it's looking into the eyes and the hearts of people who need you. Well, to know you is to love her. I didn't know her, but I read that obituary and I felt inspired to be a better woman because of her life and legacy. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
The mark of a matriarch, very important. You can listen to Boyd, more conversations like this and other topics too, every afternoon on KSL News Radio 102.7 FM. Thanks again, Boyd.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.